Life is about completing circles. Yes, indeed, Rabbi Label Baumgarten and I were yeshiva bachrim when we first started in Long Island. It warms my heart so much to see one of my campers from 1977, Richie Feldman, right here. Yeshikoach, what a nachas. Yeshikoach. Hashem should bless you and heal your heart for many long, happy years to come. Today's event is by Tzirei Agudas Chabad, Tzach. To me, that means a lot because I grew up in a home with my late father and mother, Rabbi and Rebbitzin, Uncle Yossi Goldstein. But what it meant to me was growing up when Rabbi Kasriel Castell would call up my mother sometimes 10 minutes before Shabbos, can you have guests? Where there's a pegisha, we need extra room. And then a Malava Malka. And my father worked on many, many events on behalf of Tzach, but they were the true trailblazers of Mivtzoyim. And here what we have today. And my connection to Long Island goes complete circle from 1977 till today. So I'm very honored and humbled, and I'm very grateful that you have invited me to be here with you today. I want to share with you a first-hand, some behind the scenes, and some thoughts. Today I was walking on Kingston Avenue. One of my old yeshiva friends met me, and he put his hands on my shoulders, and he said a blessing with Hashem's name. And he said the blessing, Baruch Ato Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shechiyonu v'kimonu v'giyonu lazman hazeh. And he gave me a big hug and a kiss. And he says, Rabbi, I'm saying this because it's a deserving moment. And it's a blessing that we say at the holidays. It's a blessing that we say at special events. But when we say it, do we think it? Do we live it? Do we feel it? 66 days ago, the last day of Pesach. It was a very special day, personally for myself. Growing up in Crown Heights, growing up with the Rebbe, we knew the Rebbe's compass was one goal. Let's get the world ready so Mashiach can come. From when he was a little child, that was his dream. I grew up with the Rebbe, and I wanted to be part of that dream. But I knew once a year, the last day of Pesach, the last day of Passover, is a day dedicated to just that. The Baal Shem Tov set it to motion that the first 7 days of Passover is about the past, the last is about the future. The Haftorah the Rebbe would read, he would read it with such emotion. He would sob, cry through it. Tears of anguish of our 2,000 years of suffering. Tears of hope that yet we are all to see the Mashiach come. 66 days ago, I was planning to read that Haftorah. I never got to do it. Life changed for me, for our community, and for perhaps the Jewish world in a very different way. What happened was, for a very short moment, a terrorist entered our Chabad center. I just happened to be standing, and some people told me, Rabbi, I'm so sorry, you're in the wrong place in the wrong time. Reality is, I was in the right place at the right time. I was standing right there in the lobby of our Chabad house when I just turned for a second and I heard these horrific gunshots. And I turn around and I'm looking down the barrel of a rifle. I'm looking at a young terrorist who just breached the walls of our Chabad house. Our Chabad house that we built 33 years ago our Chabad house that's a home, a haven of love, where you go to get a hug of God. And here is an evil terrorist, a darkness that you just cannot imagine. But this is all unfolding in seconds, in milliseconds. He sees me, I see him. He lifts up his rifle to shoot at me. I hear children playing behind me. I hear the beautiful angelic voices. What do I do as a shliach of the Rebbe? Do I just collapse in fear and cuddle and hide and hope and pray for the best? Or do you snap into what I refer to as the Rebbe mode? You think about the children, and what happens to you is irrelevant. And that's exactly the mode that I snapped into. I turned around to grab the children, to save them, these beautiful angelic souls. When the terrorist decided to shoot at me, he did shoot at me, but he only was able to get my 2 index fingers. Nothing else in my body was affected. For some miraculous reasons, the bullets just hit my fingers. I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize it. I got the children outside. I got them to safety. I run back into the line of fire, not knowing what's happened, only fearing the worst. I arrive back into the lobby. The shooter is gone. There is a silence that feared me the most, only to realize that that silence wasn't a silence of fear, but rather a silence of elation that everyone escaped, with the exception of our dear Lori Kay, of blessed memory. But I find my congregation outside. They are huddled, talesim thrown about without yarmulkes. The fear on their faces is a page out of the Holocaust books, albums. But I could think of only one thing. What's my job as the Rebbe's shaliach, as a soldier? What would the Rebbe do at this moment? I grabbed the chair. I had blood spewing out of my fingers. Had no idea the arteries were severed. But I'm standing there and I tell the Bnei Yisrael, my children, our congregants, that what's happened here is not going to define us. What's happened here is what we read in the Haggadah, V'hi Sha'amda. This happens in every generation. But God will spare us. God has spared us. And I asked everyone to shout with me. And they said the words, Am Yisrael Chai. Let me tell you what that did to them at that moment. I did not know this till afterwards because they took me away to the hospital to save my fingers. But what happened was the members of the congregation rose up from that sheltering fetal position. They stood tall. They went to my son's house, which is neighboring to the shul, and they continued reading the Torah. They continued reading the Haftorah, and they sat down for a Mashiach meal. But let me share with you the level of miracles that people don't know about what happened. There was a very brief moment of darkness, very brief. But what happened afterwards? The gunman, after he emptied out the bullets on Lori and myself and the children behind me, his last 2 bullets, he turned to the sanctuary. My son-in-law, Rabbi Schneier, who just got married 2 weeks before, was the Bal Korei. He's on the bima. The bullets, the shrapnel, went over his head, enough just to pull off the material from his kippah and to touch his talis. His yarmulke literally was a helmet that spared him. No one in this sanctuary got hurt. As soon as there was a moment that the gunman did not know how to change his cartridges, a former Navy soldier ran into action towards the lobby. When he approached the lobby, he sees a chair being thrown on the shooter. And this army veteran gives a shout out, "Get out of here, I will kill you." And the shooter, the terrorist, grabbed his rifle, ran outside. The army veteran ran after him, and then the border patrol agent, a 70-year-old Russian immigrant who fled Russia because of the anti-Semitism, ran after him. 3 other people ran after him until they chased him away. What's unknown until today is who threw that chair on the shooter. No one has yet claimed, when we thought it was the army soldier, it was not him. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a very sacred day as we are getting ready for 25 years of Gimel Tammuz. We are standing on a very sacred location where the Rebbe is with us. We are a very sacred group of people. I want you to know what happened to my wife and I, our community, was an event that we wish on nobody. But we have demonstrated to you what it means to live with the Rebbe. We have demonstrated to you how we do not get defined and consumed by terrorism, by darkness, but rather how it empowers us. I want to share with you 3 short instances that perhaps can help you make your own decision. Is the Rebbe still here with us? It's been 25 long years. Is the Rebbe still here with us? So let me share with you what happened 42 years ago. 42 years ago, I'm a yeshiva student in yeshiva in Brunois in Paris. When the head of the yeshiva calls me and says, "Please come to my office right now," I didn't know what I did. Why am I being summoned to the principal's office? And he tells me, "There is a letter arrived from the Rebbe for you, a personal letter." This is 42 years ago, in 1977. It's the old airmail letters, the blue paravion thin letters. And he has me open it up. And in there, the Rebbe tells me how important it is I should concentrate on my studies. And then the Rebbe writes a line that remained with me. Never knew when do I need to use that line. And the line was, "If a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness, how much more so a lot of light." And the Rebbe, in his handwriting, added the letter Vav to where light and darkness is. I'm just a student in yeshiva, and the Rebbe sends me this personal letter. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting on my couch the day after the shooting. The phone rings, and my brother, who just happens to be in Los Angeles visiting the last day of Passovers, heard about the shooting, drove down, and has been with me since. And he tells me, "Yisroel, the President of the United States wants to talk to you." And I thought this was Label Baumgarten playing a prank joke at me. I truly did not believe that our President of the United States of America has the time and the presence of mind to call me with everything that he's dealing with. And I said, "Sure, put Label on." And if I take the phone, I'm about to say, "Hello, Label." And then there's a secretary says, "This Rabbi Goldstein," said, "Yes, the President of the United States would like to talk to you." And our president gets on the phone, and he begins telling me, "Rabbi Goldstein, this is your president, Mr. Donald Trump. My heart goes out to you, what you went through. I want you to know how much we love the Jewish people. You know that my son-in-law is Jewish, my daughter is Jewish, my grandkids are Jewish. You know what I did in Israel, moving the embassy, and you know what I did for the Golan Heights." And he goes to continue to tell me all the wonderful things he has done for Jewish people. And I responded to him, how grateful we are for what he has done. And he needs to realize that God put him in that position, so he should be like this. And the conversation continued ongoing. And then he asked me, Rabbi, what is the solution to this anti-Semitism? And the first thing that came to my mind is the Rebbe spoke so much about the moment of silence, education. We need to start from the beginning and teaching our children. And the president listened to me as I spoke to him. The conversation, as the president later said, was supposed to be a 1-minute conversation, ended up being 20 minutes. At the end of the conversation, something inspired me to say, Mr. President, I would love to meet with you in person. And as he said, I'll see what I could do. The next day, 24 hours later, I get an email invitation from the president and the first lady to join in the prayer day, which was going to be on Thursday. I fly to Washington on Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I'm in Washington. I'm at the Rose Garden. I'm just expected to be a visitor like anyone else. When 15 or 20 minutes before the event is supposed to start, Mr. Avi Berkowitz, which is Jared Kushner's chief of staff, calls me out and he asks my son, Rabbi Mendel, and my brother Zalman to follow. And I had no idea where we were going. I've never been inside the White House. I don't know where I was being escorted. He brings me into the White House, and in the hallway, I meet Mike Pence and his wife, and they embrace. He embraces me with such a beautiful embrace, and they share with me the condolences and the comfort. When moments later, I see the president and the first lady walk down the hallway. He walks right up to me, and he gives me such an embrace, and he says, Rabbi, I really enjoyed our phone conversation. And I says, Mr. President, you are amazing to take the time to call me. I really appreciate it. And within a second, a moment happened that I knew the Rebbe is here at play. The president says, you're a great guy. Let me take you to the Oval Office. This is a play out of Purim. I come to the Rose Garden, and the president invites me up to say a few words. If you notice the video, if you have watched it, when I approach the president, I shake his hands. By then, I feel like we're buddies already. I say, Mr. President, thank you for matching your blue tie with my blue cast. And he looked at me with such a smile. He says, go have fun. Go enjoy yourself. So I took to the microphone. I had no idea what was I to say. What am I supposed to do talking at the Rose Garden with no script to 42 million people? What I said was what the Rebbe wrote to me 42 years ago in the letter. The Rebbe had the foresight that one day I'm going to be standing in the Rose Garden, and I read those words. If a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness, so much more a lot of light. So let's light up this dark world. Let's do as many random acts of goodness and kindness so that the light will certainly push away the darkness. I want to share with you in 1987, my dear father, Rabbi Yosef Goldstein, Uncle Yossi of blessed memory, approached the Rebbe on his birthday, and he presented him a key to the new Chabad house that my brother-in-law, Rabbi Ullman, Rabbi and Shterny Ullman, just dedicated and opened up in Sydney, Australia. And he gives the key to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe smiles and says, this is a gift to God, and I will roam around in the Chabad house. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rebbe telling us that every Chabad house is the Rebbe's house. Every Chabad house, the Rebbe roams around there. There's no question in my mind, 66 days ago, the Rebbe was in our Chabad house and made sure to protect myself, and all of the members were there. Yes, the Rebbe was there and is there and will be in all of our Chabad houses. Let me conclude with what happened just 3 weeks ago, which started 33 years ago. 3 weeks ago, a Chabad rabbi from South Dakota, the last state in the United States to get a Chabad rabbi, he's visiting his uncle, but he says, I have to visit Chabad Poway. I need to visit the rabbi and give him a hug. Rabbi Mendel Aparovich walks into our Chabad house. So it's Thursday night 3 weeks ago. And he says, hi, he introduces himself. I've never met him before. And he says, I just want to give you a hug from South Dakota. He met me in the lobby where the miracles began to unfold. And I said, do you know, Rabbi Alperovich, you're standing on sacred land where miracles upon miracles happened, where the Rebbe revealed himself in a most incredible way? And he says, Rabbi Goldstein, it's been amazing. I've been following you. What you have done to the world, what the Rebbe has done to the world is unbelievable. So I said, it's only getting better from here. I've been invited to go to the United Nations to talk. And I'm trying to figure out what should I say at the platform at the General Assembly at the United Nations. Rabbi Alperovich's eyes opens up. Did you say the United Nations? I said, yes. And he says, do you know that the Rebbe wrote a speech 32 years ago that was supposed to be read at the United Nations that never happened? I says, that's incredible. I've been toiling and wondering, why am I going to the United Nations? And what am I supposed to say there? Where's the Rebbe who's going to tell me what I should be saying there? And here is the answer. Within 10 minutes, I get an email from Rabbi Alperovich, which is the exact speech that the Rebbe penned in 1987 that was supposed to have been read 32 years ago. And the Rebbe would not rest until that speech will be delivered. And ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what happened at the United Nations. I was able to get up there with a tremendous amount of energy and strength because it wasn't me anymore that was talking. It was the Rebbe's words that were talking to get through the United Nations. And I was able to deliver what the Rebbe wanted to be mentioned 32 years ago so that the world can know that the world will no longer be a wasteland or a jungle, but rather the nations need to start implementing, following the 7 Noahide laws and education, the moment of silence, and to realize that we are all children of God and we're all responsible for each other and we all need to make this world a better place. And this was our Rebbe who knew that as we are approaching 25 years, that none of us here for a second should have a weakness and say, "Oy, it's 25 years, what are we going to do?" But rather say and realize that the Rebbe has not forgotten us. The Rebbe is with us. The Rebbe looked out for us then. He looks out for us right now. And all of us over here, we have been touched by the Rebbe. We have been inspired by the Rebbe and his shluchim. It's because he is here for us. I survived this horrific shooting, which is against all odds. Our community has survived against all odds. The miracles and miracles and miracles that happened just 66 years ago are miracles of biblical proportions. It's to get us ready, to let us know that the eyes is upon us, The Rebbe's soul is upon us. The Rebbe has not forgotten us. The Rebbe continues to embrace us. And as we're standing right here, right now, on this sacred ground, we know that the Rebbe wants us to get inspiration from what happened, to inspire others, to hang in there just a little longer, because Mashiach is Mashiach is here, and the miracles that we have seen will continue to see. The miracles that I share with the losing of my finger is not a loss, but it's an empowerment. What we lose doesn't make us lose, but rather empowers us. The finger that was taken from me was given to every single one of you to point to the Rebbe, to point to Hashem, and say enough with this galus, and let us see the coming of Mashiach, b'mheira b'meinu, speedily in our days. Amen. Thank you.